Are you ready? Let's do this.
Hi there. I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of the Gold Corner. Like I do every week, I first and foremost want to thank God for the opportunity that He gives us to be able to share this, and be able to share with thousands of people. We've just had an amazing response, and we've been able to connect. We've been able to talk about childhood cancer, and we've been able to talk to certain parents. And this is going to be a weekly thing. We just want to spread as much awareness. Every single parent that I've talked to, that you'll be hearing the story, we just have a passion. We have developed a passion to spread awareness, to be able to talk about our children, to be able to talk about how 4% funding is not enough, that we need to do more, that our children deserve a lot more. So I just want to thank everybody for subscribing, for sharing the videos. This week again, we have a very special guest. I can't say enough for these parents. We're a family. We're a part of a family that we did not choose to be a part of, but we're here, and we're here to support each other, and we're here to help each other out. So I want to introduce Jenna from Missouri. Jenna, I reached out to her in the Neuroblastoma page. We're going to be hearing the story of little Emery, little girl, also neuroblastoma. Again, something very dear to me because that's what ultimately took my daughter Mia. But it's one of these things. We're going to hear a very powerful story. We're going to hear, the heroic story, and I call it heroic story because if you have ever actually been behind the scenes, not what the TV, not what the media is showing you what childhood cancer is. If you've actually been behind the scenes or been in an oncology floor, you'll see what these little heroes are about. You'll see everything that they have to go through. And again, I reiterate, if you have not seen that, then consider yourself blessed, but that's why we're here, because we want to educate people. And that's why I have created this family. That's why I have created this channel, because we want to speak about this. We want to make people aware. And if your child is perfectly healthy, we want you to just be grateful for that, because we've been through a situation that is so difficult. In my opinion, probably the most thing a parent can actually go through. So again, we're going to be hearing this story, and again, from Missouri. Jenna, I just want to welcome you to the Gold Channel, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for accepting to be here. And we can't wait to hear the story of your little warrior. You're also going to be speaking to us about foundations or everything else that you have created, and something that's actually happening right now that's very important to raise awareness. So Jenna, once again, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you for the invite and for the warm welcome. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to spread awareness. So this is so important. Thank you. I'm just going to start from the beginning. We were what I'd call a normal family. My husband and I were elated, just overjoyed, happy when the birth of our daughter. She was born in October of 2014. And she was just a joy. She was our only child at the time, and the only grandchild on both sides. So she was loved and adored and spoiled. Everybody, of course, loved her, and she was just a happy little girl, full of life. I always say, she wasn't a sick child. She barely had a cold those first 2 years of her life, and so it still just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't know if it ever will, but she was 2 years old when things started just kind of being off. She just wasn't her normal happy self. She didn't want to play like normal. She didn't want to do a normal thing. She wasn't eating quite right, but she was also 2 and a toddler, and had her 2-year molars coming in. We thought, she's just being a cranky toddler. And then actually one day, my mom actually noticed that she wasn't turning her neck properly. She looked to the left. When she looked to the right, she'd turn her whole body. And so immediately we called a pediatrician, and we took her to the pediatrician, and they were worried about meningitis. So they sent us to our local hospital, Children's Mercy in Kansas City, and they did a CT scan of her neck. And they told us that she had I guess something that only little kids get. It's called a retropharyngeal abscess in her neck. It's like little kids have open spaces in their neck, and they said that she had an infection in her neck. So they kept us for about 5 days, and they did IV antibiotics, and she got better. And she started to eat, and she started to play, and we could hardly keep her still in the hospital room. They sent us home on oral antibiotics. We had to keep those going, I think, for like another week or two. And then, we thought that was it. We thought we were good. But probably a week into being home, she kind of started doing it again. She would just lay around, cry, and just wasn't her normal self. Didn't want to eat, didn't want to play. And I began to think, okay, something must be off again. But she could turn her head. So I was like, well, maybe this is a new thing. So we took her back, and they would change her antibiotics, and they would tell us just to keep doing what we're doing. And oh my goodness, the antibiotics were, first off, disgusting. We tried them too, because you're trying to give your 2-year-old something. How bad is this? It was bad. So bad. I feel so bad when I think back to it, because it was just horrible trying to give her these oral antibiotics. They gave her the worst diaper rash she ever had. But we thought we were doing what we had to do, be parents, get her to take the antibiotics. Then we thought she was getting better again, and then one day, we did our normal, we ran some errands, she even walked around the block. Then she took a nap, and when she woke up, she refused to walk, just flat out refused to walk. I'd set her down, and she would start screaming and crying and tears, and just want me to pick her back up. And, immediately a fear began inside me. I was like, why is my child now not wanting to walk? Like, this isn't what's supposed to be happening. I thought we were good to go. So, of course, we immediately took her back to the hospital. They saw her, and they could actually feel like inflammation, swelling in her joints and her hips. So they decided she needed MRI of her hips. Well, I can't remember. I think they were just busy and busy that day, and we actually had to wait overnight. We didn't do the MRI until the next morning. And, they took her down, and we were waiting in the waiting room that unfortunately we would get pretty used to being in. And we got a phone call from the doctors, and they asked us to come back up to her hospital room. And I said, well, I want to be here when she wakes up. You guys told me that I could be here. I don't want her to wake up and me not be here. And they said, no, you really just need to come up so we can talk to you. So I called my husband, who was actually at the hospital too, but he was trying to find his dad. And so him and his dad and myself, we all made it back up to her hospital room, and we were all sitting in the chairs. And it's bad when a room full of doctors walk in. And, you look up and you're staring at like 5 different doctors. You don't know their names. I couldn't tell you any of their names now. And they have that look on their face. And, my first thought was, oh my gosh, she has something really wrong with her hips. They're going to have to do surgery. Like, there's infection in her hips. She's going to lose her legs. Like, that's my first thought. My first thought was never that she had cancer. I mean, she was 2-year-old. And at that time in my life, I didn't think 2-year-olds got cancer. Like, she was a happy, normal, healthy little girl. No way my daughter had cancer. But, they sat down, they gave us that look, and they told us that when they did the MRI of her hips, since she was so little, they got her her lower abdomen at the same time, and they found a tumor on her adrenal gland, which is above her kidney, on the scan. And because of her age and location, they told us that they were pretty sure she had neuroblastoma. And they told us that was a cancer. And my first thought, they kept talking, and my first thought was just, no, that's not right. You guys need to bring me back my child. Bring her to me right now. I need to hold her. Like, I couldn't even listen to them anymore. All I thought was, if they don't bring me my child now, I'm never going to see her again. That was my just immediate fear. Like, as a mom, like, you need to bring me my daughter right now. And so they finally went, and they got her. They brought her back, all sleepy. And, I just held her, and I cried. And I think that's all you can really do, when you get told news like that, is just to hold them. And, she had no idea what was happening. She was sleeping. She had no idea. But, yeah, that's the moment that our lives changed literally forever. It's like, your life just stops. Like everything before that didn't even matter anymore. All that mattered was the fact that we were about to start a huge fight, and we were going to fight with everything we had because, you know, it was a baby girl, our only child at the time. Like, she was our everything. And that whole week's kind of a blur. A lot of scans, bone marrow biopsy of the tumor. They put a central line, gave her a central line in chest. They started chemo right away. We got bad news after bad news after bad news that entire week. It was never, we never got any good news after that. You know, she ended up having a tumor on her adrenal gland, a tumor on her spine, and a tumor on the derma part of her skull. So like not on her brain, but on the inner part of her skull. And then the specific scans for neuroblastoma showed that she had disease, literally head to toe. Like, her bones were covered in disease. So, I mean, like, her face, her chest, her ribs, her shoulders, her knees, her entire spine, and her entire pelvis, which explains why she couldn't walk. And I think that's the thing. Like, up until, like, literally, I have pictures of her, like, 3 days before playing and, like, swinging on her arms at the park. And I'm thinking, how is she swinging on those arms that were, like, full of cancer? And kids are just so resilient, and I think that's one of the reasons why it takes so long for kids to be diagnosed. And so many kids, by the time they're diagnosed, you know, she was stage 4 diagnosis. So there was no catching it early. There's no, like, test to catch it early in a child. There aren't any. There's no protocols for catching it early in a child. And so it wasn't. And so by the time my child was diagnosed, like, her bone marrow was just full. It was just all neuroblastoma cells. She literally was close to death by the time they caught it. So, you know, we started out, like, you know, behind. Like, we started out from a deficit from the very beginning. And, but, you know, there's also those genetic markers that you don't want to have, which are kind of hard to explain if you're not, like, in that world. But she was positive for all the ones you didn't want her to have. So we knew from the very beginning that her cancer was probably going to be hard to treat, and it was probably going to be reoccurring. I remember the doctors telling us that even if they did get her clear, that the chance of her relapse was super high. And I'm thinking, holy cow, even if we get her clear, you're telling me this isn't going to end? Like, it'll just keep going? And I don't know. I don't know how a parent is supposed to take all that in. But, you know, I guess we just didn't have a choice. You know, we weren't given a choice. No one asked us if we wanted our child to have cancer. So she went through, I would say, the current protocol. So she did 5 rounds of chemo, surgery to remove the primary tumor, another round of chemo. Then she started the stem cell transplant process, so she was supposed to have 2. The first one was so hard on her body that it actually was very life-threatening. We almost lost her. She had a condition called VOD, which is, the best way to explain it is liver failure. She pretty much had all of the side effects that you hope your child wouldn't get. You know, nausea, vomiting, mucositis. She had to have tubes for feeding because she couldn't eat, and lots of fevers, lots of infections, we were in the hospital more than we weren't. And it wasn't just because of the cancer, but the side effects from the treatments. The treatments just are not good enough. They were way too harsh on a 2-year-old's little body. After we finally recovered from stem cell, which I believe we were inpatient for about 56 days, like currently, like consecutive 56 days. We had a tiny break, and then we started radiation. At that point, Emery had 1 spot left that lit up in her knee, her left knee, and her bone marrow was like less than 1%. So we thought we were doing pretty good. We were in control, even though at the same time, after stem cell, after those high doses of chemo, we were hoping she'd be clear. But she still wasn't. She still had active neuroblastoma cells in her body, which was pretty depressing to hear. But we kept going. She did radiation to her primary tumor where it was. Even though we removed it, they still radiated that area. And they did radiation to the 1 spot in her knee. She did 12 rounds of that. So it's like, that's about not quite, 2 weeks. And then she went on and we started immunotherapy. So in the childhood cancer world, that's kind of one of the newest treatments for kids. We were pretty excited to start it. We thought this was really going to help get her clear and keep her clear and teach her body how to like find those cells and kill them before they can multiply. That's the whole point of antibody therapy, is to teach their body how to kill the cancer. We were supposed to do 6 months or 6 rounds of that, and unfortunately we only completed 1. And I can't say that she relapsed, because the relapse, she would have had to been clear. She had progression of disease while on treatment, which is actually kind of worse in the cancer world. So she progressed even though she was currently getting treatment, and she a tumor developed actually on her skull, but it grew so large that it pushed on her brain. They first thought it was a brain tumor, but it actually was a tumor off the bones of her skull, and it gave her horrible headaches and lots of pain and made her really sleepy. We were pretty terrified. Unfortunately, we had to start chemo up again. We were hoping we were done with chemo after stem cell, but we had started again. And then we also did radiation to the tumor. She actually had to do 20 rounds of radiation, so that was quite a long time, quite a lot of radiation to her skull. We were pretty worried about, long-term side effects. The doctors kind of told us that she could have lots of different issues later on in life. But we had to kill the cancer. So we did 20 rounds, and I'm telling you, on the very last day of radiation, the 20th round, she started getting fevers, and she started having this pain in her rib area. And, I was like, this can't be what I'm thinking. It's got to be something else, But we took her back in, they did scans, and they found that she had a new tumor growing from her ribs and eating into her lungs. And at that point, it felt like we were just band-aiding everything. We weren't curing her. We weren't killing disease. Like we'd fix one spot and watch another grow, and fix that spot and another one would grow. It was like we were just band-aiding. And I think most doctors do their best. Do I think that we were in the right place? No. I think they should have sent us to an NB specialist, a neuroblastoma specialist, much sooner than they did. I think by the time that they sent us, it was just to the point where it's too late. And it's really frustrating now looking back, because they didn't give us options. It wasn't like you could go here and do this, you could go here and do this, you could go here and do this. Like when Emery was diagnosed, they're like, this is what you're going to do, this is how we do it, no matter where you go. I remember our doctor telling us, no matter where you go, this is the current protocol, this is what you're going to have to do. And now looking back, like, that's not necessarily true. There are different places that do, MIBG therapy first, or there's different trials that we could have gone on. But, we thought we were doing what was best. And, we had no idea. We're not doctors, or, we're not oncologists. We don't know. We just did what we thought we had to do. So when we saw that there was a new tumor, got that news, we knew that our local hospital was pretty much out of options for us, as they told us. And so CHOP was kind of our top of our list. There's a couple MD specialists, but CHOP was kind of the top. We had heard of a doctor there that another oncologist family of ours that we knew went to, and they really loved. So we traveled to Philadelphia from Missouri to Pennsylvania, and we were supposed to just go for just a kind of a welcome. They were going to do scans, kind of just, introduction kind of thing. We weren't supposed to stay for more than a couple days, but CHOP wanted whole new scans, even though we'd just done scans, literally a week and a half before. A week and a half before, they had told us that the scans showed new spots in her skull where kind of close where that tumor was. The spot in her knee that never went away. But they said the tumor in her ribs, lung area, didn't light up, which we thought was weird, because she'd always lit up, but, we weren't really sure what that meant. But there was obviously a tumor. So when CHOP did new scans, our doctor up there wanted to do new scans. Like I said, it had only been about a week and a half. And Emery's scans pretty much looked like they did when she was diagnosed. We went right back to the beginning, maybe even a little worse. She lit up like a Christmas tree, head to toe. Her face, her skull, her jaw, her shoulders, her ribs, her lungs, her spine, her hips, her knees. I remember just I didn't even know what to like, I didn't know how in a week's time, like, how had that spread so quickly. And, we had started noticing really, like, the day or two before, like, while we were on the plane going to CHOP, and we started showing us signs that she was, something was a little off, like, it's kind of gross, but she was having some bloody stool, and, you could tell, like, her platelets were low because she was getting that petechia, like, you could tell she needed some platelets, which was weird because she shouldn't have needed platelets. And yeah, it started to progress really, really quickly. The doctor up there told us that they wanted to try MIBG therapy right away. This was on a Friday, so Monday we started MIBG therapy. We stayed up in Pennsylvania, and MIBG therapy is pretty much whole body radiation. Like, they inject this chemical. It's just literally like a full body radiation, and she was actually so radioactive that she had to be behind lead shields, and they had like a urinary catheter because if she peed on herself, it would have burned her. She was just turned 3 the month before. So she was 2 when she was diagnosed in December 1st, and at this point we were in November of 2017. She had just turned 3 the month before in August. So I was pretty scared to do MIBG therapy because I'd heard that you couldn't be in the room with them, and they had to be completely still, and like they couldn't, do certain things like she was used to doing. And it's hard enough having a 3-year-old in the hospital, but to have a 3-year-old in a hospital room and expect them just to like lay there and not pull on tubes. And she was my girl, like my mini me. Like, she always wanted me. Like, she didn't want anyone else. She wanted her mama. I was pretty persistent. I actually did end up staying in the room. I just stayed behind the shields. I was never going to traumatize her in that way. So I just took the risk and stayed with her. And, but we all, like, our family is really close. We have a close family. So it was me and my mom, my mother-in-law, and my husband, and we took shifts. So they had little, like, the little timers pretty much on us. We couldn't be in the room too long, and we would take turns, and then I'd stay in there all night with her. And she did amazing, like she always did for everything. She surprised me. She did great. She didn't really have any issues when you talk about a 3-year-old being hooked up to what she was hooked up to and having to stay in bed for, we're talking days. I think it took about 3 days for her. I think we were, I could finally actually be closer to her by the 4th day. 4 days of not being able to hold her, and not really being able to touch her. That was pretty hard. That was rough. But she did it, and then we went home. So I think we left on like a Thursday or a Friday. We went home. The doctor at CHOP pretty much told us that she was either going to get better or she wasn't. And they couldn't do scans because scans wouldn't be accurate because we just injected her with radiation that would make her light up whether the cancer was active or not. And so we pretty much just had to go home and wait. And yeah, that was pretty terrifying. I didn't know if she was going to get better, if she was going to get worse. They told us her pain would get better because by now she was pretty painful with that much cancer in all her bones. And they told us that just hopefully that she would do well, and 6 weeks from then we would fly back to CHOP and they would redo scans, and if she needed another MIBG therapy she could have 2, or if her disease burden was low enough that we would get on a trial. So that was our plan. We knew 6 weeks from now we'd be flying back out to CHOP. That was what I thought was going to happen. But about a week and a half after we got home, she started getting pretty bad. She declined really quickly. I just remember like the last time we were home, I remember looking at her, and we had slept in the same bed that night like we always did, and when she woke up I could just tell something was really wrong, and she was breathing heavily, and she just looked so sick, so bad. And so we were supposed to go to clinic anyway. We were up early that morning, went to clinic, and by the time we got there, her oxygenation level was like 80%, and she was pretty sick. And so they first thought, because they did a ultrasound, they did some blood tests, they thought that her liver was acting up again. They told us that she had VOD again, which didn't really make sense because MIBG therapy is not known to cause that. It just doesn't cause it. It didn't really make sense, but at the same time, that's what it was showing. Her body was showing them. So they started her on the one medication that they have to treat that, to get her liver to go down. So pretty much her liver was huge. It was taking up so much of her abdomen that it was pushing on her lungs, and that's why she couldn't breathe. She couldn't take big enough breaths because that's how big her liver was. She also was just, retaining fluids and needing a lot of platelets, a lot of blood. They admitted us, and they started treating her for what they thought was VOD. But now looking back, it wasn't really VOD. It was just her cancer had taken over, and now was in her liver, and it was blocking up everything. And they just couldn't really tell us that for sure, unfortunately, at the time, because like I said, scans were kind of out of the picture, and I don't know. I guess, they did the best they could. I kind of would have rather, known for sure. So when they told us VOD, I thought, oh, well, we beat that once before. We will be in the hospital for a long time. This was end of November. So VOD treatment, I think they told us we'd be there for at least like 3 or 4 weeks. So we just planned on being in the hospital for Christmas. Not a big deal, we would just do what we had to do, and we'd make the best of it like we always did. And it was just really a day and a half later, and she just declined so fast. We just didn't really have any warning. I think a lot of people probably think, oh, well, you must have saw it coming. And no, I didn't see it coming. We didn't get that time, I guess. I don't want to call anybody lucky, because no one's lucky in this time, like in the cancer world. No one's lucky that has like a child that's diagnosed with cancer. But you hear a lot of stories where people get to take their child home, and they pass away peacefully at home. I always thought in my mind, like, if my child was going to die, which is horrible to think, but you think it when your child is diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. You think, well, if this comes to the point, then I'm going to take her home, and I'm going to let her live her last days at home where she's happy and she's comfortable, and we'll all be surrounding her. Her family will be with her, and we'll just love her to the end. And she didn't even get that. She didn't get that. Like, you would think that's a pretty easy thing, something that, a child could have, but forget. But after all the fighting she did, her passing was very traumatic. It's still really hard to talk about. It was just traumatic. It was very traumatic. She couldn't breathe. She was scared. She was gasping. She couldn't focus on anything but just taking breaths. We went down to the PICU for actually the first time that whole year. We never actually had to go down to the ICU, the PICU. But we ended up in the PICU that night, and no matter what they did, nothing helped. Our oxygenation levels just kept dropping and dropping so quickly, and it felt long and quick all at the same time. Almost like I felt like she suffered for way too long before they decided to intubate her. I kind of wish they would have intubated her hours before, because all it was that night was her trying to breathe and being in pain and not able to take big breaths. And we watched it for, it felt like days, but it was hours. And then I remember shift change, and the morning PICU doctor came in, and she told us that Emery scans, her latest x-rays of her lungs showed that she was bleeding out into her lungs, and that's why she couldn't breathe. And she told us that she was going to try to intubate Emery and do the best she could to get her oxygenation up, but she told us that she felt like Emery wasn't going to make it. And that was the first time that year anyone had ever told us, like, your daughter's not going to make it. And I said, and she asked us right there, do you want us to keep going? What do you want to do? And I said, well, you can't just leave her like this. She's suffering. Like, she's a fighter. Like, let's intubate her. Let's get her to where she's comfortable, and let's see what we can do. She's a fighter. Like, she always comes back. She's a fighter. I just knew she was going to be okay. And I always refer now to that doctor as Dr. Death because she was the one. She was the one that said, Jean, your daughter's dying. They rolled us into another room, and, I was laying in bed with her trying to, comfort her. And they made us leave, and they told us to say goodbye, and in a sense say goodbye, and just tell her, love on her, tell her that we loved her, and that they were going to try to intubate her. And we did. We told her we loved her, and she looked me right in the eyes. And I told her, I was like, Emery, they're going to give you your favorite medicine. She liked the sleepy medicine, what she called it. For whatever reason, made her feel good. And I said, they're going to make you feel so much better. And she opened her eyes and she looked at me, and I could see the relief. She was going to feel better. And I told her I loved her, and that was it. That was the last time I would see her awake. See her. We left the room. We just stepped outside the room. Again, I never left my girl. I stayed with her, like I always told her I would. I would never leave her. We watched as they tried to intubate her. It did not go well. We watched as everything dropped. All her stats started to drop. And I remember people coming around me and being like, sit down, you're going to pass out. But all I just kept saying was, they need to save her. Like, save her? What are you doing? Save her. They did get her intubated. But I don't really believe she was ever there after that. At least I hope she wasn't. I think that was the moment that she became an angel. But her little heart kept beating for like another 12 hours. Her little heart just kept beating. Her oxygenation was horrible. Everything was horrible. Her body was slowly passing, but her little heart just kept going. And I remember telling of someone that that day was December 1st. I said, today is a year from the day she was diagnosed. I guarantee you this girl is going to make it to the 2nd. And she did. She made it to December 2nd at around 3:45 in the morning. Her little heart finally stopped beating. It doesn't matter how many years pass. It's always going to hurt. And, she's always going to be my daughter. I know she's with me, but it's always going to hurt because parents aren't supposed to be without their child. Parents aren't supposed to be. When you have a child, you feel like you're promised like their life, a lifetime. I'm supposed to pass before my daughter. And then, no one talks about what happens afterwards, It's not like a movie where they like fade out to like, I don't know, some pretty scenery or something or whatever. It's real life, you literally have to leave your child in a hospital room and leave the hospital without them. Nobody talks about what happens afterwards, it's not something anyone really wants to talk about. And I get that because it hurts to even think about your child not being with you. It hurts. So I get it, but it happens. Childhood cancer takes so many babies away from their families every single day. And sometimes it feels like people just don't get that. I mean, the government obviously doesn't get that. Kids definitely aren't the priority when it comes to funding and research and treatments. And I mean, this is 2020, and the survival for kids like my M that was diagnosed with stage 4 neuroblastoma is still only 40 to 50%. Right now, in 2020. It's still not any better, and the chance of relapse is still at 50%. And once they relapse or progress, like, doctors just aren't really sure what to do after that. And like what they did with M, they just kept band-aiding it until it couldn't be band-aided anymore. And it's just not good enough. It hasn't been good enough, and it's still not good enough. And that's why not long after M passed, we decided we were going to keep fighting in her honor. And I just knew we just couldn't just forget or not want to join this fight back up. And so we started a foundation in her name, Emery's Memory Foundation. And we started out just doing, our nonprofit, and we helped quite a few families. We do some fun things like care packages and gift cards and fun things for the kids to do. We also help with bills when parents ask us for financial help, which is definitely important. Again, I think something that a lot of people don't understand is when a child is diagnosed, like typically at least one parent is with that child all the time. Like both my husband and I worked when Em was diagnosed, but once Em was diagnosed, I quit and I became like her constant, and that's why I was able to be. And a lot of families end up in bankruptcy or losing their homes, and it's just so much. It's so much. There's just so much on the financial side of things, on the mental side of things, emotional side of things. It's just so much. So we're kind of just there to help in any way we can. Like really, we try not to say no about anything. We just help in any way that we can. But then something really exciting we're doing this year. We are doing something called Emery's Thunder Run. So we have one man right now, and he is running across the country for childhood cancer. So he started on July 6th in Dana Point, California. And so on the coast of California. Right now, he just made it through Arizona and he's into Utah. He'll be in Utah for just like a couple days, and then he's in Colorado for quite a while. So he's running 28 miles 6 days of the week. He only rests on Sunday. So it's like literally running a marathon a day. He'll run about 120 by the time he's done, 120 marathons. So he'll run altogether about 3,076 miles by the time he's done, which is crazy, but crazy inspirational too. Like he really doesn't have, he's never had a child that has had cancer. The closest he has actually is my Em. So Peter is my mother-in-law's brother. So it's like Emery's great uncle. So, and after Em passed, he knew he had to help. He knew he had to do something. And he's a runner. He's done some other fundraising runs for like MS Run the US. And so he's run hundreds of miles before, but he's never run thousands. So this is definitely something new. But he is so committed. Like I can't even tell you how committed this guy is. Like he is running a crazy amount of miles every day. Like when he was in California, through the desert especially, it was so hot some days that his shoes were melting, like really quickly melting. And we were all very worried about heat stroke and keeping him hydrated, but he just kept going. And he said now he's getting pretty close to Colorado. He won't get to the end, to the finish line, which will be in the coast of Delaware, until November 14th.
Wow.
So he has a few more months to go. But he's doing amazing. Like he really, I think he's just bringing hope to so many families. And, it is a fundraiser, so I'll not say things. We are trying to raise money. 75% is going to research, which is really important to us because I feel like that's where a lot of it is needed. Childhood cancer research needs a lot. Like our kids just get pennies when it comes to like government funding. They literally get pennies, and that's why it's 2020 and it's really no better for most childhood cancers. And so 75% is going to research, and then the other 25% of what we raise is going to go to families. So that's definitely important to us too. We want to really be able to help some families in a big way. So that is what we're going to do. Our goal is to reach 200,000, which is a pretty high goal, but we are already at our halfway mark. We're about at like 106,000. So we're getting there. We've had some really, really, really great, amazing, supportive people and businesses step up in really big ways, and we couldn't be doing it without him. Like the truck that is driving him from coast to coast was donated, and the camper was donated because he has to stay, obviously something along the way. And We have crew members with him each week that are taking care of him, that have donated their time and their energy away from home for at least a week at a time. And so that couldn't happen without that too. So it's pretty amazing when you think about what all had to come together for this run to even happen. And it's all coming together. And it's just really exciting to be doing something so big in my daughter's name. That's really that's one thing that excites me most, is just being able to do something to hopefully, I know she's watching, and I'm hoping we're making her proud. And along the way, we're also honoring and remembering a lot of children, childhood cancer. Neuroblastoma is definitely the cancer that I'm most passionate about, because that is the cancer that took my baby. So a lot of the kids either are fighting neuroblastoma or passed from neuroblastoma. Like this week right now is in memory of another little girl named Gigi. She passed away at 3 years old from neuroblastoma. So that's what this run is for. It's for the kids. It's, Peter isn't running every single day for himself. He's running for these families. So hopefully they see that they are heard and they're loved and they're fought for, and that's what this run is all about. And if anyone else wants to learn more about it, we have a website, emerysmemoryfoundation.com, and our Facebook page is updated a lot, and it's just Emery's Memory Foundation. And just thank you for allowing me to come on here and tell Emery's story and talk about what we're doing in her name, and spreading so much awareness, because we definitely need to spread as much awareness as possible. Like I say, our babies deserve so much more. And I hope one day when a child is diagnosed with neuroblastoma, the doctors can look at them and say, we can beat this, we got this. So that's the goal.
Well, Jenna, wow, what an amazing story. Again, just like you, I'm very passionate about this, mostly for neuroblastoma, like you said. Our neuroblastoma community is small, but not too small. And like you said, literally, we're at 4 pennies on the dollar when it comes to, childhood cancer. And that can't be happening. Like you said, 2020, that can't be happening.
Yeah.
Our children deserve a whole lot more than just all of this. I think it's great what you're doing. I have a lot of parents that have come up to me and asked me, how is it that you can, speak about this, and, having gone through what you've gone through, but our children did not go through this in vain, and if they went through something, we were chosen to be able to continue their legacy and to continue and spread awareness, because as bad as it sounds, we're not the first parents, and we're not going to be the last parents that this is going to happen to. But I just think it's great what you're doing, and I know for a fact, because doing this takes out a lot of me. Usually when I do these videos and everything, I end up crying about an hour after we're done, and I'm sure it's been extremely difficult for you to be able to do that foundation. But yes, your daughter is looking down, and you are making her proud, and I am proud to call you my friend, my sister. Like I mentioned, we're a family. We're a family here, and we're all here for each other. So just thank you for what you're doing for our children. So that is amazing. That is amazing, the foundation. So, parents, guys, anybody who's watching, just remember Emery's Memory Foundation. I'm going to be putting all the links on the description on Facebook and on the YouTube and all of that. Please, 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 even $1 goes a long way when it comes to this. And, like you said, the care packages, they might not seem like a lot to most people, but I remember when I would get a care package when we were going through things, even the simplest things would make us smile. Even the simplest things my daughter would love to get, and that means a lot. That means a lot, and it goes a long way. So please, if you all can donate, all the links are going to be in the description. And the Facebook Emery Emery's Memory Foundation. Please go on there, like the page, share the page, and if you all are involved in businesses or God has blessed you, be a blessing to other people, be a blessing to other parents and other families, because we do get those phone calls and we see, that the hospitals will tell us, there's a new family that was diagnosed, and we've been through it, so we're there for them. But it does take money to be able to carry on what we are doing or what we're trying to do. So this is a great foundation. I was reading up on it, and just amazing. And if you go into her page, you're going to also see the pictures of this beautiful little girl, this warrior. These are just great warriors, and they go through everything with such a smile. They go through everything with, even though they're hurting, they'll be hurting, and they'll come out of here, they'll come out of that situation and they'll smile. But just like you were saying, your child, your daughter, everything. And in a way, it's also a blessing that you had the opportunity to give her that comfort, and for her to feel that comfort, knowing that you were at least at that point going to be okay. The way I tell people, we're never ever going to be okay, but it's okay to not be okay. It's okay. Somebody once described it to me as we're amputees. An amputee loses a leg and an arm, and they learn how to live their life like that. Well, we've lost our whole heart, or a part of our heart, and we're having to live like that. And I'm sure you have days where you just don't want to get out of bed. There's days where it just the whole day is bad, and it's okay to be like this. But again, we're just trying to educate parents. We're trying to educate people of what this is, of what this horrible monster called cancer is, childhood cancer, and the funding that we need. And again, I think it's great what you're doing. So please, 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 from the bottom of my heart, the people watching this video, please go into her page. Please, if you can donate, please donate. If you can share this page, make this page go viral and have people share. 200,000 is I mean, they're already halfway there. If we can get those other 100,000, we can even go more. You have no idea how much it's going to help these families. You have no idea how far all that money is going to go. And as a nonprofit like you and I both have, we do not keep any of the money. None of the money stays with us. All that money is for research. All that money is for different kinds of things for these families. So please, it's very important for you all to go through it. Again, the links to her page and to everything is going to be here. And like I mention every week when I talk to a parent, Jenna, I'm also going to be tagging you on the Facebook page. I know there's parents, because other parents that have come on the episodes, other parents actually contact them and just try to get advice and try to get, maybe they have questions and stuff. So if you have any questions, anything, even words of encouragement that you want to give Jenna, I'm sure she would be more than happy to lend an ear and talk to you all. I mean, we're a family. We're a family, so we're here to listen to each other. And also the page, I'm sure it's run by you. So if you get any messages or anything, you're not talking to an assistant, you're not talking to a secretary, you're talking directly to her, you're talking directly to us. So we'll be more than happy to get on the phone, no matter what time of day, and be able to talk to parents that have gone through this or going through this or about to go through this. Childhood cancer is real. Childhood cancer is not rare. And we need to be a voice. We need to be passionate about all this. How are we going to do it? One step at a time. Creating foundations, all of this. So please, if you have the opportunity, click on those links and just donate and follow the story of this great man. I mean, all the miles he's running. I mean, he still has 2 months to go. So I'm sure he also gets on the page. So if you want to just send him words of encouragement so he can read that, because that's what motivates him. That's what's going to keep him going. So if you all can do that, it would really be appreciated by Jenna, by her family, by me. So if you could all do us that favor, it would mean a lot. So Jenna, right before we finish, any last words of advice, anything that you would like to tell parents that are going through this, parents that are going to go through this, and even parents that have perfectly healthy children? what would you tell all of them?
Well, parents who are going through this, I would say always go with your gut instinct. And you are definitely your child's advocate, especially if your child is young and they don't have quite a voice for themselves yet. Something doesn't seem right, definitely always speak up, voice your concerns. Don't be afraid to upset, the doctors or the nurses, because you're the parent. And in my case, you're the mama, or but if you're the dad, and something is off, always speak up and be your child's advocate, because no one's going to love or fight harder for your child than you. It's just, if you've never been in this situation, just hug your children tight and don't turn away, even though it's hard to listen or hard to hear or hard to see. That isn't going to solve anything. And fortunately, childhood cancer is not as rare as most people think. And you just never know. You don't want to wait until it is your child, or it's your niece or your nephew or your grandchild or your neighbor's child. Don't wait to get involved and start helping until it is someone close in your life. You don't want that to happen. And if it does ever happen, you want the best of the best. And I think most people, just because I know I did, I always just assumed that kids got the best of the best when it comes to treatment and research, and that's just not the case. Not even close to the case. And I had no idea. And you get smacked or punched in the gut when your kid is diagnosed, and then you get smacked in the face when you find out that it's the research and the treatments aren't even there, that what you thought was your child was going to get the best of the best, but they don't, because it's not there. So just don't wait, don't look away. These kids and these families need you. And I just want to say thank you to you for your passion and for your heart, and for not giving up, and for fighting for all of our kids, but also for your Mia. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to come on and tell M's story. I think it always means a lot to the angel parents that their kids aren't forgotten about. So I'll say thank you.
Of course. Well, once again, thank you. And at least for me, every time I tell my story, it helps in the healing process, because we know we're helping other families, and I know our angels are up there, smiling, because we're telling their story, we're telling their true warrior story. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be able to do this. And I just again want to say thank you to everybody who tuned into this episode of the Gold Corner. Again, please click on the gold ribbon and subscribe, share these stories. Let's make these stories go viral. We need to spread awareness. We need to be a voice. We will be a voice, and we're going to paint gold everywhere we go. We're going to be painting gold because our children deserve it. So once again, all the links to M's fundraiser pages and to her Facebook pages and all of that, they're going to be in the description. So please follow her. Please follow Jenna as well. And just thank you to everybody. And just remember to live each day to its fullest. To tomorrow's not promised. So you just love a little bit harder, hug a little bit harder, hug your children, love your children, because we would give anything to be able to hug our children tonight. So if you have that blessing to hug your children, please do so. So again, thank you all very, very much for your continued support to the Gold Corner and to other organizations such as M's organization. So until next week, we just want to say thank you. God bless you all, and we'll see you soon, okay?